Hello class, in this video I'm going to illustrate how to center a picture, and the reason for that is I don't think I showed that to you, and a number of students have asked me how to do that, so let's go and see. Here's my website folder, and I'm going to work with my sports page and put a picture on that and then show you how to center it. So first I need a picture, and I already saved one. I have it in another folder. So I'm going to copy it, and then I'm pasting it over here. So I have a picture of Emmitt Smith from the Dallas Cowboys, and going to put it on my sports page. Now, of course, sometimes people say, where'd you get that picture from? Well, I got it from the internet. I didn't show that because why waste your time? But you should know, if you want a picture, go get it from the internet. And that opened on my other screen, sorry, but here we are. So in my main section here, after my heading, and of course if I'm working on my sports page, I bet I should probably change my title to, I don't know, I called it just sports, my favorite sports team. Oh, okay, so maybe over here I'll put Dallas Cowboys, and over here I'll put welcome to my Dallas Cowboys page. And then I'm going to put in my image. I'm going to say, oops, open my angle bracket, image, and then of course source is src, and then in quotes, well, that was a pretty long picture file name, so I could shorten it down renaming it, or if I'm smart, I'll just click here, wait and click, or right click and say rename, copy the whole thing including the extension, the .jpg. So I've copied all of it, and then I paste it. So long names are okay, but I suggest you don't type it because one little typo and it doesn't work. Okay, so I'm putting that image on my page. Oops, and over here we better put an equal sign. Okay, so let me save this, and then drag this down a little bit, drag this up a little bit, and double click on sports, and there's my image. But you can see it's much bigger than my border that goes through here in my main section, so I want to fit it on my main section, obviously. So if I go back to my sports page over here, we could put in a width and a height, calculate it and do all that, but right now it looks to me like if I make this about 50% of the size of what it is, if I cut it in half, that might work good. And so here's something new. I haven't showed you this before. But instead of specifying the width and the height in pixels, you could also say width equals, and then in quotes, just say 50%. And that'll cut it in half, both width and height, because it'll keep it proportional. So let's save that, and then refresh, and there you go. Shrunk down 50%. Notice it's not in the center though, and that's what we're trying to accomplish here. But now that I can't really center it if it's way too big for the page, so I had to shrink it down first. The way to center it is to use some styling. So style equals the whole thing in quotes. Put some spaces in here so the width's not right up against what I'm typing. And so there's two things you have to do. We want a margin on both sides that's auto, so it automatically goes half on one side, half on the other. But we also have to display it as a block, as in like a band that goes across the entire main section. This way we can style it with an automatic margin that's the same on both sides. So basically, if I just say margin, we don't have to do the margin on the top and the bottom, although you could. We're really just talking about the left and the right. So margin, if you remember, we start with the top, so I should put 0px, and then it's the right, so I'll say auto, and then it's the bottom, so I'll put 0px, and then it's the left, so I'll put auto, and then I'll close that and save this, And you're going to see it doesn't do anything right now just by changing the margins, because it's not a block going all the way across, it's just margins around here. But if I say block it, display it as a block, it's like the block is the whole width. So if I also come in here, and that should add a semicolon even though there was nothing else after it, and I say display block, always end with the semicolon, and do file save, and then you have it in the center of the page. And that's the way to center it. However, it's not the best way. Oh, and one other thing too, before we even get to the best way. If you have a hard time remembering this, top, right, bottom, left, you could just do this. If you know you want the left and the right, you could say margin dash left and make that auto, and then say margin dash right and make that auto. It's a little bit easier way to remember, maybe. Okay, no semicolon, semicolon, semicolon. Don't forget the semicolons. I forget them a lot. So we got a left margin of auto, a right margin of auto, and display it as block. And then that should work. So we'll do file save. But again, this is just another way to do it. That's not the best way. So I'm sorry if that's wasting a little time, but just wanted to show you another way you could do that. The best way to do it is, well, really I should say, the best way to do it if you're going to want to center a lot of pictures. If you're going to do it just once, maybe this isn't such a big deal. But if you're going to do it a bunch of times, you got to type all this stuff in a bunch of times, or copy and paste it a bunch of times. And if you want to change something the way it works a little bit, you have to go and find it all over the place and change it all over the place. So maybe you're guessing where we're going to do it. If we want it to affect our whole website all the time, if we go into our main.css and change it there, or put it there, then it'll work all over. However, so let me cut this out of here. And so we just have this. And then refresh it. Okay, so it's not centered anymore. If we go into our main.css, if we open that in Notepad, and you'll see that these affect H1s, H2s, the body. Those are standard HTML elements. But when we create our own HTML area, section, element, or properly said division, or divide, we note it with big wrapper or top menu or some other word, main section. And maybe what I should do is, as a reminder, open a page and show you that. Okay, so we call it a division. It's an ID is equal to big wrapper. So now when we go to our main CSS and we want to style this big wrapper, all we do is put a hashtag in front of it, and that links these two things up. So div ID, the ID is big wrapper, and this, of course I highlighted the wrong thing, so sorry. This right here links them together and styles this whole big wrapper section area of the website like this. But what if we don't want to style a whole section? We just want to style individual elements very often, or lots of times. There's a different way to do it instead of linking with the hashtag. So if I come down here and I type in a dot and then I call it something like center, we're setting up what's known as a class. Okay, and then we have to display, this is for centering, whatever is that we want to center, we have to first display it as block, and then we have to give it a margin left of auto, and if you notice, this is the same stuff we typed in before, margin right of auto. Semicolon, and then close the curly brace. Okay, so this is the same code. The code that I had inside the element on the HTML page was this. So you can see it's the same thing. Margin left, margin right, display block. Okay, but now I'm doing it once, and anytime I want to apply it, so let me save this and close this out. And this was just an example. Close that out. And where did my sports page go? It's over here. So anytime I want to apply centering to any type of thing on my page, any type of picture on my page, I can just say this: class with two S's equals, and then in quotes, center, because that's the name of my class on my main.css. So that's much shorter and easier to remember. And if I ever have to change something in the centering, I change it once on my CSS, and anywhere I call this out on my website, it'll take effect with the updated change. Now, did I save this? I forgot. Go here, and there you go. It applies that. Now, some people might be saying, hey, what about this heading? Don't you want that centered? Oh, yeah, I do. Okay. So let's go over here and say section. No, I'm sorry. H1. And say class equals center. And save that. And refresh. And guess what? It doesn't work so well. It doesn't really work at all. So the point there is it works good with pictures. It doesn't really work with text. So that's not the right way to center text. The right way to center text is align equals center. No longer the class name, but an actual CSS property, align center. So that's for text, but the pictures now I can align by calling out my class called center. So let's save this and then refresh, and you can see that the text is now centered. You can see it's centered over the picture, and because both of these are centered within my section, they're centered upon each other. And if you wanted to put in some margin on the top of the picture to get it away from the text, you could do that. The other thing you could do is after the text, or after this heading, we could just put in a BR tag or two. And that will also, give us some space between the text and the picture. Okay, so the proper way to center a picture, especially if you're going to do it often, is to create a class on your main.css, wherever that is. Here we go. Create this class somewhere, anywhere in the list. It starts with a dot, and then the name, whatever name you like. No spaces, of course, never any spaces. And then put in all the properties you want, and anytime you call out that class, like over here, anytime you call that class out, it's going to do all of that stuff down there. Okay, so that's the proper way. I would say the proper way to center a picture. It's the proper way, but I would say putting it in your CSS is really not just proper, really the best way, the most efficient way, because you might think you only want to do it once, and then who knows, maybe down the line you want to do it again. Set it up the right way to begin with, it'll always work right. So there you go for all you people that want to center your pictures. Now you have a nice way to do it. Thank you.